Hi everyone, this is Mindy Egan for Honeybee Stamps, and in today's video, I am creating a Christmas card using products from the Make It Merry release that will be available on October 21st at 7 p.m. over on the Honeybee Stamps website. The first thing that I'm going to use is this Plaid A2 hot foil plate, and I will be using my Gemini Junior and Gemini foil press for this, so I do have the Gemini foil as well. I have a piece of dark red cardstock that I will be using to do some foiling, and I trimmed my foil so it's just a little bit bigger than my foil plate. I have that pretty side facing up, then I have my hot foil plate facing down, and then I secure it with some low tack tape. Now this is how I personally like to use, or how I like to foil. Everyone kind of does it differently, and I just really like having my hot foil plate and foil secured down to the cardstock. So once I have my Gemini foil press ready to go and heated up, I'm placing my cardstock and my foil plate so the foil plate is touching that hot surface. Then I hit my timer button and I place my shim on top. So I know it's done when my machine beeps, and I'm going to just disengage that platform and run that through my Gemini Junior. Now I'm going to carefully lift up this foil plate. They can be pretty warm, which is why I bring my sleeve down to kind of help peel that away from my cardstock. And then I'll carefully lift up this gold foil, and it looks amazing on this dark red cardstock. So while I had my foil press out, I decided to do another background. This time I'm using a dark green cardstock, which is the one that I end up using. So once again, I just trimmed my foil so it's a little bit bigger than the actual foil plate. Heated that up and ran that through the Gemini Junior, and then I can peel away that foil plate, set it off on the side to cool off, and peel up my foil for another beautiful background. Plaid to me is just totally screaming Christmas. I also did a white panel off screen, so now I have a dark red, a dark green, and a white panel. All of them are gorgeous, but I will end up using that dark green. For the front of my card, I am going to use the Lovely Layers bells. So I really went through my scraps. I don't know where this cardstock came from. It was just a scrap bin I have, and I'm laying out the different die cuts I have and the actual dies that match it. So the layering bell, it's going to layer up twice, and I did die cut out two so I could have multiples on the front of my card. For the bow, we have a dark red and a regular red, and then there's some detailing that you can add to the front of the bell. Now, since the rest of my card is going to be pretty simple, I am going to be popping up a lot of my layering bell, including this top layer of the bell that I have out of some light yellow cardstock, and I'm going to add it to that dark yellow cardstock. So it's giving kind of that shadow effect in the background. Now, what I think is really great about this set is that even though it's coming out at Christmas time, you can totally use this for anniversaries and weddings. I think that would be amazing. It's something that you can use pretty much all year long. Since I'm working on a Christmas card, I die cut out these kind of design pieces for the front of the bell in Christmas colors. So I have the light green there that's going to go on top, and then there is another small little scallop piece that's going to go on the bottom. Now that I had debated about die cutting that, I've made some glitter cardstock or foil cardstock, but I ended up going with a dark green. Now for the bow, once again, I wanted to layer things up, and these are some itty bitty foam squares that I added to the top layer of the bow, and then I can add that on top. And then we also have the piece of the bell that actually rings the bell. I don't know what it's called, but there are a couple pieces that can layer up together. So I did the main piece that hangs down out of that dark yellow, and then I added the bottom portion or the bell of it with some red cardstock. So while I had die cut everything just out of some regular cardstock, you could also add a little dimension to these bells by ink blending the edges to really give it some contrast and dimension. These are those little green scallops that I was talking about, which I think would be really pretty in some glitter paper, but I'll show you what I did with it later on. Now, this is kind of the card design that I want to go with, and I'm going to use a sentiment off of the stamp set Jingle All the Way, and that's actually the sentiment that I chose. So to keep this pretty simple, I am just going to stamp this on some white cardstock using the Intense Black ink from Honeybee Stamps. Once I stamp it down, it is a brand new stamp. So I'm going to stamp it again just to make sure I have really good coverage over all of the letters. This is also another new stamp out of the Make It Merry release. So we have the Jingle All the Way stamp set, we have the bells, and the A2 Plaid Hot Foil Plate. Those are the 3 new items that will be available October 21st. I trimmed down my plaid background to 3.5 by 4 3/4, I believe it was. And then I'm adding this to the front of an A2 size white panel with some foam tape, and that's going to really give me some nice wide margins on the edge. So now I can start adding my bells to the front. Now I have a lot of dimension going on with my bells. So the first bell I just added with some liquid glue, but I did pop up this other bell since that's going to be in front, kind of overlapping that bell. Because I did that, I also need to pop up my bow. So I'm just trimming down these foam circles, and I double layered those foam circles so that it really kind of sits up on those bells. Now with the bow, there is a die that will cut out something for the center of the bow, but I already had planned on adding some sort of embellishment to that. So I just left the center blank for right now. Now I added that to the top of my bells, and now I have my sentiment that I want to layer up, and that is pretty skinny. I didn't feel like messing with foam squares, so I die cut out that sentiment about 3 or 4 more times from white cardstock, and I'm layering it together with my liquid glue, and that's going to provide the dimension to kind of match the rest of my images on the front of the card. I have a few final touches I want to add to the front of the card, starting with a pearl to the center of my bow. I just have a white pearl here that is from the Ocean Waves embellishment set, and then I'm adding some unicorn stickles to my bell. So I did it to the balls of the bell, and then I also am adding it to that green scallop just to add a little bit of sparkle to that. Now, to me, this is a very classic Christmas card, and I think once you get on the roll with a hot foil plate, you could do a bunch of backgrounds in all different colors of foil and cardstock. That will finish up my card project for today. I will have the supplies listed down below in the video description. Thanks for joining me today.